it doesn't make sense to bring him back, no matter how much we all love Torrey. When you have
I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think bringing Torrey Hunter back in a different role than where he's at currently and at a different dollar amount definitely makes sense. Torrey Hunter has expressed the desire to even, he joked that he'd even play third given the opportunity to help this team out because he wants to play with Albert.
Right.
I would like to see him end his career here and maybe put in a good, 3 to 5 more years, but in a role not as a starter. In a role, he's a 9-time Gold Glover. He's a lot to teach. He has a lot to help some of these kids, and I don't think that any time that Torrey Hunter spends with Mike Trout or Peter Borges will be bad time spent.
Right.
And the one area, and Morgan, I know you're a Yankee fan at heart at some level, and I grew up a Dodger fan and have since converted, so I understand that. But one level, the Yankees have always been able to be, head and shoulders above the other teams in the league is their depth and their players on the bench. Their championship run, they had guys like Tim Raines sitting on the bench who was able to contribute. And I think that hopefully as the Angels make a push here in the next couple of years, you'll be able to see somebody like a Torrey Hunter, or maybe next year it's Bobby Abreu, come off the bench and help this team. Maybe not in a starting role, but in a very important role, especially in October.
Right, and I think in theory that makes sense, right? It'd be great if we could have Torrey Hunter transition slowly into that mentor role, right? But I think oftentimes we see in sports, it doesn't happen. There is no graceful transition, right? And I think a great example, look at Jorge Posada. He had one bad year. I think he's still got a lot left in the tank. I think definitely as a mentor, he could definitely be a valuable asset to the Yankees.
See, I think where it's different. Where it's different, though, is Jorge Posada is useless as a catcher at this point in his career. Maybe not useless, but he's a weekend. He can catch one time a weekend. He's not going to be able to sit in there 4 or 5 days a week. And I think because of that, that's a serious problem. Torrey Hunter should be able to play a serviceable right field for the next 5 years.
Right. And I think, is he have any value behind the plate for the Yankees? Probably not, because they have Jesus Montero coming up, they have Cervelli, and they still have Russell Martin. So for him, he's the odd man out. But, would you rather have Posada or Brian Wilson? Posada's a 5-time champion. All right, I'm going to stop myself right here, because somehow this turned into me belittling Brian Wilson, which was not what I was trying to do here. What I was trying to do here was to convey to you guys that Jorge Posada deserves a longer leash. He's a Hall of Famer. Without a doubt, in my book, he is a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest catchers of our generation, offensively, defensively, complete package, 5-time champion. Okay? So with that said, what I'm trying to convey is that he is a Hall of Famer. And when we get back from break, we're going to open up the proverbial can of worms, and we're going to look at some Hall of Fame snubs that just happened. Welcome back to Angels Insider Radio. Again, my name is Morgan Spokny, and I'm here with Jason Brennan and Eric Denton. And guys, I'm not going to lie. That last topic about Jorge Posada kind of hit me hard. That's kind of as I said, it's a soft spot in my heart. I grew up with that team, and it's always a sad time when you see one of your heroes kind of fade off into the distance. So, I said we were going to talk about some Hall of Fame snubs. So, Jason, what do you got for me?
Hall of Fame voting came out this week, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this. Barry Larkin gets in. Ron Santo gets in. A little late on Ron Santo. I don't get that whole thing that you get better as years go on, or maybe the Hall of Fame ballot gets weak, but I have a case for that right now. So Ron Santo was on the ballot for a number of years, 17, 18, 25 years. I'm not sure the total number. He did not hit an extra home run. He did not get a leg back. He did nothing in that time frame that would have resulted in him making the Hall of Fame. But in that time frame, like this year, for example, Eric Young, former Dodger, former Rocky, Javi Lopez, former Brave, Oriole, kind of an okay catcher, big hitting catcher, had 40 home runs one year. Brad Radke, former Twin starter. Bill Miller. Do you remember who Bill Miller is?
Third baseman, Giants.
Giants and Red Sox was probably best known for it. Won a World Series with the Red Sox. He might have been the originator of Cowboy Up, as a matter of fact. There's some, him and Kevin Millar are fighting over that useless stat. Tim Salmon. Obviously, we know who Tim Salmon is. But all of those players, clearly not Hall of Famers, received Hall of Fame votes this year. Now, I would assume that if these people, these voters, were a little bit more focused on not handing out votes to guys that treated them well in the press box or gave them an extra interview or took them out for dinner once or twice and actually voted for guys that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, some of these things might not get to the Veterans Committee. And there's a couple of guys on here. Barry Larkin was an obvious one. I'm glad he finally made it in. Lee Smith, not sure how he's not in the Hall of Fame.
It's ridiculous.
At this point, that's a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame. Tim Raines, best leadoff hitter in baseball for a period of time. I think he's a Hall of Famer. And here's the one I want to ask you guys on. Where does Edgar Martinez fall? We've heard some comparisons. The end of Albert Pujols' career, he may be an Edgar Martinez type player. Where do you see him? Is he a Hall of Famer?
I think he is. I think he's the first designated hitter that really owned the position, responded to it, didn't complain about having to do it, and got the job done consistently. When the Mariners were hot in the 90s, I wasn't afraid of Junior or Buhner. It was Edgar that was going to get him every time.
I want to echo those sentiments. I mean, I grew up in Portland, and those guys might have got more accolades and might have been more hyped, but in the clutch, when you needed a hit, I wanted Edgar Martinez up at bat. He was dominant. The guy did everything well offensively. Yeah, he didn't run, he didn't play defense, but he was a potent stick. And the guy won batting titles, drove in hundreds of runs. I mean, he had seasons. I remember he won a batting title about at 356. That's a Hall of Fame season. And
had 145 RBIs one year. He's got 933 career OPS.
And Pujols is about 1,000 right now. And a 900 OPS, yeah, it's a DH, but that's a hell of a hitter. I mean, that's a three-hitter on every team.
For a long time, considered the best right-handed hitter in baseball. Mike Piazza, Edgar Martinez, in that time frame were kind of the two that were bounced back and forth. He received 36.5% of the vote this year, 32.9% last year, so he's moving his way up. Other guys that are kind of moving in the correct direction, Jack Morris, 300-game winner, isn't he?
Possibly, but I do know that his ERA is high. That's kind of the thing with him, is that he had a lot of strikeouts and he won a lot of big games, but he had a high ERA for the generation that he pitched in, and he was on a lot of
254 wins.
He was on a lot of good teams.
254 and 186.
I think it's one of those situations where he was put in the right situation because the team that he was on for him to shine. But he didn't necessarily bring his team to the promised land and then shine.
Well, did finish top 5 in the Cy Young Award multiple times. Didn't ever win it. Jeff Bagwell, another player that is gaining momentum. 56% of the vote. There's some steroid allegations and things that are probably the reason he's not in. And then there's some guys that just are dropping like flies. Mark McGwire actually went down this year from 19.8% a year ago to 19.5% now. I think the writers just say, we may vote you in after you're dead, but right now, those steroid guys, they're not getting a second chance.
Palmeiro came in dead last.
12.6. He actually was up versus a year ago, which is strange.
Guys, that's ridiculous. We're talking about a man who collected over 3,000 hits. He's not a Hall of Famer? Are you kidding me? I don't know about you guys, but that infuriates me. absolutely infuriates me. We have to go to break right now. We're going to pick this back up, but I'm going to tell you in a couple of minutes why not only is that downright asinine to reject clear Hall of Famers, I'm thinking about actually going to Cooperstown and starting an Occupy Cooperstown movement. That's right. I'm dead serious here. I think something needs to be done. And I'm going to go on a little rant when we get back, if Jason allows me and if Eric allows me. But I'm really feeling this one. No joke. I'm upset. And I'm going to let you know why in a couple of minutes. All right, we'll be right back. Once again, welcome back to Angels Insider Radio. For those of you just picking up right now, my name is Morgan Spokny, and I'm here with Jason Brennan and Eric Denton. Now, in my opinion, just my opinion, and maybe one day I'll get a vote, so I'll have an actual say in this matter, but I think it's ridiculous. I mean, these are
what is
the vote? The whole situation where we're voting subjectively on numbers. Doesn't it make sense to objectively vote on numbers? This isn't art. This is not an artist where you go, you know what? That Van Gogh is pretty. That's a really nice piece of art. No, this is a guy who baseball is amazing because we take such fine detail in recording stats and comparing stats. And yeah, stats kind of fluctuate here and there in a generation.
Okay, but
can't really be compared to another generation.
But you can compare
3,000 hits should get you in. There should be a cutoff, as we had for quite a long time, 500 home runs. Well, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, and that's the way
see the guy play.
That's the way it was for a long period of time, and then became the cheap 500 home runs or the cheater 500 home runs. And because we can't determine which one we're comfortable with, we got to a point where, the home run has been cheapened. So now 500 doesn't count anymore. But we're not going to go back and take out the guy who hit 500. I think there's some terrible inductions to the Hall of Fame if you look at where people are currently and where people
Bill Mazeroski and no Bobby Grich.
There's one for sure. And I think you go back and you can look through and say, had this voting been done today, would that person still be considered a Hall of Famer? And there's a lot of people that aren't. And I have a real hard time with the fact that people gain momentum either after they're dead or 15 years later or 15 years after they last played a game of baseball. They have done nothing. The fact that it took Burt Blyleven as long as it did to get in the Hall of Fame is ridiculous.
And is Ron Santo in the Hall of Fame because he had 30 years on TV to complain about it?
Yeah, and I think, again, it's the posthumous vote. You say, you know what, the guy's dead. It's the right thing to do. We're going to vote him in.
It would have been nice to get that done before. I want to jump.
Blyleven gets in because, again, we're in presentism. That's the problem that we're facing right now. It's the same issue when Roger Maris hit the home runs. You want to put an asterisk on it. Why? Because you didn't like. Let's go even further back. Babe Ruth plays in an era, not to be racist, but he plays against solely white people. Let's put an asterisk on that. He plays only day games. Throw an asterisk on it. Because in my present world, my ball players need to travel. And they play against Japanese people. We play against Latin American people. I mean, they play against what truly is the best of the best. So I think it's ridiculous that people who grew up in the 50s, the 60s, 70s, look at this generation and say, that guy is not a Hall of Famer. He's not what I grew up watching. He's no Clemente. He's no Willie Mays.
I have this argument. Guys on Speed.
Yeah, and that's going even further back. I've read allegations, purely speculations, that, you know what, Mickey Mantle might have dabbled with some sort of primitive steroid and Babe Ruth might have taken some stuff and blah, blah, blah. The thing is, people use the technology that's available. If they had it, this isn't, again, not about a person. Okay, it's not, Mantle was a better person because he didn't cheat. Well, Mantle used what was available to him. You know, you look at guys nowadays, Kobe Bryant just had some sort of